Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your moms would practically build themselves.
Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv and welcome to today's show. Today we are going to look at decorating some of those bases that we talked about a week ago, these little commercial bases that I purchased. We're going to look at a couple of ways, a couple of different ways that I'm using different materials like cork, and then just kind of a mixture that I'll show you, and some other things. How we make these bases turn out pretty wild for whatever it is we want to do. Whether it's just something real simple for a figure that World War II figure, something like that, or any other figure. Whether it's, I'm not going to do anything concrete or pavement, anything like that today. This is going to be more of natural type elements. So standing on a beach somewhere, or standing on Mars or a red planet like that, or some other things that we're going to cover here, which is making a really gooey looking alien base. So stick with Mad Dog Merv as we look at how we spiff up some of these bases. So first thing I'm going to do is, I've got these bases. I'm going to use them for these Tyranids that I've got, but whatever you want to use them for, that's great. With this technique, I'm just going to take the base, and I've got, you can see these marks here where the feet or other things go, so I want to avoid those. But I'm just going to take some PVA glue. I'm going to use quite a bit here. About like that. And on this one, same thing. Okay. Now that I've put that on, I'm just going to take some super glue. Okay, we are just going to use the word super glue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some drops in this. And it does some really weird things, which is awesome. Okay, we'll start there. On this one, I think I want to put a couple of eggs in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some, if I had some 5mm plastic or metal ball bearings, I'd use those, but I don't. So we're just going to use some of this. Look at that, 50 cents. Wow. Some of these little 4-ounce fishing sinkers. They're just little, but it's going to be fine. I'm going to drop some of these in here on this base. Try to bunch them together a little bit better. Maybe put one over there, okay. And do the same thing with the super glue, and let it work its magic. I'm just going to continue to put a few drops around here. And we'll show you guys the results on this. It's actually really, really cool what happens. Now, you might be able to see that already on this base, it's starting to do some funny things. We'll come back to that shortly. Now on these two bases, I am going to use some cork. I bought these sheets. I think I got a dozen of them for just a few bucks off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. But they're 2mm, which is going to be perfect for what I'm doing. And I'm just going to take a chunk of it. Try to make it not so squared up here. And put that on the base. Now I could use some super glue, but this has worked fine for me. This is self-adhesive, which is good. We are going to have a nice little crack right here, I think. And then I'll put some of these little other bits. Here and there. Just kind of break it up. Now I've got this little chunk here, and I'm going to put it on top to raise this up even more. Push it all down. See how quick and easy that one was? This one here. Again, put some of these smaller chunks back into it. Put this one here. Just kind of randomly doing this. Some poor space marine or Tyranid's got to stand on this. It would be helpful if I took my figure, whatever figure I'm going to use. Let's just say this guy's already got a block base to him, but you get the idea. You know, put them where you want them, type of thing, so you can see where you need to either flatten it out or raise it up. But for today's purposes, we're just going to do this. Now, I'm going to take one of my duller hobby knives, which is pretty easy because these blades go dull pretty darn quick anymore. And I'm just going to rough up the surface of it. So that it's not quite so flat. You can get as aggressive as you want, depending on how flat you want the surface to be. So, there. Same here. Okay, that's good enough for now. On to the next step. I'm going to be mixing up some texture paint. Citadel makes some that they call Astro Granite Debris, which is great. You can buy that. I'm going to mix up my own. Okay. We all know that I try to do things with stuff I've got laying around and as inexpensively as possible. So we're going to try making up 3 colors here. First thing I'm going to do is drop so these are half ounce testers bottles that, as they would go bad or whatever, I would empty them out, clean them out to the best of my ability, and you can see the brown still has a little bit that I just could not clean out of there. Anyway, and I use these for mixing. So I'm going to put we're going to go with about that much, maybe a quarter of the bottle. And I'm going to get these filled. We'll go to the next part. Now I'm going to add some PVA glue, Elmer's glue, whatever floats your boat, but this is what I'm going to use. And I'm going to put in about that much. Because I want this to harden up and bond to what I'm going to do. So maybe 2 parts water, 1 part PVA. I don't know exactly because, again, I go by vision, by what I see. For color, this first one, I'm using acrylic paints, and I'm using a old brush. This one happens to be red oxide. So this is going to be more for my Martian type landscapes. Although it doesn't matter a whole lot because this isn't how the color is going to turn out. But I'll just give it a little bit of a tint. Here I'm going to use just a burnt umber acrylic craft paint because it's what I've got. I don't have a good acrylic burnt umber in any of the smaller bottles. Mix this up a little bit. For the last color, I'm going to try to go for kind of a grayish earth tone. We'll see how that turns out. Ugh. I just hate it when they skin over like that. And this is just a blue-gray from Testors Model Master. Mix that up good. This one up good. Okay, now this is where the magic happens. What this is grout. This is just powdered grout that you would use like when you lay in tile or whatever. I happen to have a whole bunch of this left over from a project, and maybe somebody in your family or somebody that you know has some as well. Otherwise you can just get some at the hardware store, but I don't need a huge bag for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball it. This is really powdery. I guess if you had some other fine grit that would probably work too. Scoop some in here. Now what I'm going for is the consistency of oatmeal. Thin oatmeal. You can see I got a good little bunch in there. And we're going to stir that up. And it's still too watery, so we'll add a bit more. And again, you're just going to keep adding until you get it to the point where it's like a thinned out oatmeal. So see, it's not really dripping off the brush, but yet it'll move, so that's probably going to work just fine. If I need to add a little bit more later, I can add a little bit more later. So that's going to be kind of a brownish color. Okay, and then for the grayish color, okay, I'm going to have to add a little bit more, so I'll go grab a little bit more and get that mixed up and ready.